Being a woman can feel complicated and confusing because you are never taught the basic principles of what it means to have a cycle. You've probably wondered, what are the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle in order, and what is happening in your menstrual cycle, and what are common symptoms and hormones involved in the menstrual cycle. Today I will be sharing on how to harness the power of each to your advantage. What is up, y'all? Welcome to another video. I'm Shay if you're new around here. I'm a hormone and a life coach, and I help driven millennial women simplify their menstrual and fertility health so that they may have a thriving life, happy ovaries, and increased energy, really tapping into their deepest desires so that they have a very fulfilling life. If you haven't already and you're new around here, make sure that you click on that subscribe button and turn on that little notification bell so that you know when my weekly new videos come out. I can't wait to dive deeper on today's topic. This information radically changed my life, and now it's your turn. Today I am talking about one of my favorite things to teach women, and contrary to popular belief, it's the menstrual cycle. And I really truly believe that when you start to harness the power of your menstrual cycle, you realize what a gift it actually is. Quite often when my clients come to me, they are confused and overwhelmed with the information that is out there. They don't even know where to begin, where to start, and I truly believe that when a woman knows her body, she can truly use this to her advantage to create the life of her dreams. I hope you're ready to learn all about the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle in order and what happens in each phase. One of the things I wasn't aware of when I started this hormonal journey was when the first day of my cycle was. I seriously thought that the first day of my cycle was the day after I was done bleeding. But I was completely wrong. It was a very oopsie moment. I had been living in this female body for nearly 27 years, and I didn't even know when the first day of my menstrual cycle was. So first and foremost, I find that to be such a foundational principle of our bodies. And if you are anything like me and you're just like, wait, Shay, when is the first day of our cycle? It's actually the day you start bleeding. That marks day 1 of your new cycle. So whenever you're at the doctor's office and they're asking you when was the last day of your menstrual cycle, you'll think of that day 1 as that last bleed that you had. And your menstrual cycle can be anywhere between 22 to 35 days to be considered a normal length. Not everybody has an average 28-day cycle. That's actually not very common for most women. This indicates a relatively healthy cycle length as well. And there are 3 phases of your menstrual cycle. There is the follicular phase, ovulation, and luteal phase. However, there are 4 distinct energetic patterns that you will move through in each of these 3 phases. The first stage of your menstrual cycle is considered menstruation. That's when you start your period. That is the first day of your bleed to whenever you are done bleeding. The second stage is what is considered the last half of follicular phase, when the follicle is stimulated through the FSH hormone and creates a new follicle where an egg is developed to be released, which then leads to ovulation. I call ovulation inner summer, aka sensual season as well, which you'll learn more about later. And the final stage is your luteal phase, which for some women is considered PMS week, or PMS weeks, depending on what you experience in your own personal cycle. Each menstrual cycle has their own unique energetic patterns that will show up and be expressed in every single individual person a little bit differently, but follow the same rhythm. And I want to make sure that if you're watching this video, you know that you will only move through this energetic pattern and through these phases as a cyclical woman if you are off of birth control. The IUD, you may still experience it here and there, but if you are on the birth control pill or the shot or anything like that, you likely are not going to experience these same cyclical patterns because you're not producing your hormones in a natural way. If you haven't watched my Truth About Birth Control video, make sure to pause this one, go watch it, get some good juicy information, then come back to this one so that you can really harness the power of your cycle. You now understand what are the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle in order, so now I want to talk a little bit deeper of what happens in each phase. Like I said, that first stage of your menstrual cycle is menstruation week, when you have your period, when you're bleeding. I also call this inner winter. I really like to equate the menstrual cycle to the 4 seasons that we experience in nature. To me, the menstrual cycle is literally nature encoded into our DNA as women. Just as the seasons change, we're changing week by week, month by month, and constantly going through this death and rebirth cycle. And if you look at nature around us, it is ever flowing, it's effortless, it's easy, it doesn't question its patterns, it just knows that this is the next stage that they're going through. So the same thing is happening internally inside of our female bodies. So when it comes to that first stage of your menstrual cycle, menstruation week, when you're bleeding, inner winter, think of wintertime on Earth. What's happening? It's a little bit of that stillness, more of that slowing down. We are more inward. We're spending more time indoors. We want more cozy things. We want to feel good. Think of what's happening in our hormones being at the lowest point in our menstrual cycle. Therefore, we go more inward. We're requiring more rest. Our body is literally shedding the uterine lining. Therefore, it's a time for stillness, a time for reflection, a time to slow down. Tap into your intuition during this time. If you haven't watched my HPV video, I talk about doing a womb meditation, which is just placing your hands on your womb. This is a great time to tune in to your own inner wisdom. From there, we move into the second stage of your cycle, which is the latter half of the follicular phase. This is when your estrogen starts to rise. Quite often you'll notice that slight transition period of where you're just like, I do not want to interact with anybody. I want to take it chill. I want to be slow. I want to be more inward. I want to like Netflix and chill. And then all of a sudden, it's like this dial starts to change and you realize like, oh, I have a little more energy. I'm ready to do things again. I'm ready to work out again. And you want to plan. Think of it as a new beginning. I call the latter half of the follicular phase inner spring, because if you relate it to the springtime season of Earth, what starts to happen? Life starts happening again. The sun is shining for longer. It's starting to get warmer outside. We're coming out of that winter period. We're like, oh, I'm ready to socialize. Start planning ahead for summer trips. Start planning like really fun, exciting things that you don't get to do in the winter time. You're ready to be in this more moving forward momentum, a time of new beginnings and a time for new seeds to start to be planted and flourish and grow, because this is also when things start to bloom. Same thing is happening internally in your body. So when you're moving into that latter half of the follicular phase, your estrogen begins to rise. You start to feel more vibrant, more alive, more awake, ready to do and be out in the world again. That is what's happening to you during this phase. From there, as your hormones begin to rise, you reach the main event of your menstrual cycle, which is ovulation, my personal favorite time of the cycle, because as many of you know, if you've been watching me or follow me on Instagram, that I freaking love fertility. I think it's one of the most beautiful things that our body does, and both on a natural, bringing a human life into this form, it's also where it is our center of creation for anything that we want to bring into this world and manifest into the physical world. And it's always about bringing that unseen into the seen, and I think it's just so cool. So anyways, random tangent there. Ovulation being the main event is when our egg is released. Another fun fact here is many women fear that they can get pregnant at any given time of their cycle because fear is constantly perpetuated in us, and that is just simply not true. But the subconscious mind takes everything personally. So when there is this perpetual fear in society, within ourselves, and what we're constantly being told as women that we can get pregnant at any given time, we are just not really very educated on what is happening in our body. We have what is called a fertile window, which I will be sharing more about in a later video, so make sure to keep your eyes peeled. But we have a fertile window which lasts anywhere between 5 to 7 days, 7 being on more of that side of caution if you're off of birth control, so that you don't get pregnant, simply because sperm can live in the vaginal tract for up to 5 days, but you only have about a 24 to 48 hour window where your egg is actually dropped and released during this phase, that you have roughly a 60% chance, assuming that you have a very healthy cycle and mature egg, to get pregnant. And so that is something to consider. And when you're in ovulation phase, your hormonal cocktail and your brain cocktail, because of where it's at, is at their peak, at their prime. This is when you as a woman, or anyone with a female body, is really at their peak social magnetism, radiance, God-esque type of energy, and you're going to be super, super social. And that's a beautiful time to harness that energy, and that's what you will experience during your ovulation, also inner summertime. And then, of course, the infamous luteal phase, which is also considered PMS time for so many women, and quite often the phase that is highly misunderstood and also very hated, and why so many women hate having a period and sometimes hate having a female body. But as you all know, it is my mission to make sure that you join the I Love My Period Club with me and my clients and those in my Instagram community. So when you are tapped into the energetic patterns and knowing what is happening in your luteal phase, you can understand how to take care of yourself better. And during this phase is also what I consider inner fall. It is the longest time of the cycle, anywhere between 10 to 17 days, where your sweet spot is right around 12 or 13 days, and it happens right after ovulation until you reach your next cycle, which remember is day 1 when you bleed next. Luteal phase, if you equate it to inner fall, think of what starts to happen during inner fall. We start to reflect on the year, and often we're like, wow, like where did the time go? Like so much happened this year. You kind of reminisce on it and you're just like, what worked, what didn't work? And you start to kind of think about what the future might bring. You start to kind of assess like, what do I want in this next cycle? You know, knowing that we're approaching winter and we're approaching a new year for a lot of us that are experiencing fall as well. And it just makes us think about things. We become more aware, we become more focused on what we do want. We start to do the things that we want to finish out before the end of the year comes, before winter comes. We start to slow down. It gets a little bit chillier externally, and so we want something more warming to ourselves. The same thing is happening hormonally. So you'll start to slow down. You'll start to really be assessing more of your life and thinking about like what's to come next, what was working, what isn't. I really like to teach my clients this is a life audit time, and so you can really use that power of the cycle to tap into that and drop you into your desires and everything a little bit more. And then of course you will reach menstruation again, and that cyclical nature will start back up, and you will start to notice as you start to bring in this awareness of this newfound information, what your own unique patterns are. All right, how does it feel knowing what are the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle in order, and what is happening in the menstrual cycle in each phase? Are you having any ahas about your own cycle, about your own energetic nature, and your own patterns? Please let me know down below. I would love to hear it. I will be doing a more detailed video on each phase of the cycle. What are the common symptoms? What are the hormones being involved? And how can you utilize that energetic pattern for your own personal lifestyle and calendar planning? So make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that, because it will really, really serve you in your journey. Now that you know what are the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle in order, what is happening in your menstrual cycle, and in my cycle, fertility, and lifestyle course, this is the foundational basics that I teach my clients in much more depth with so much juicy goodness. So if you are at all interested in deepening your work, be sure to reach out to me to either put yourself on the wait list or join this next round so that you can there tap into what it means to be a powerful cyclical woman and take yourself on your own journey. Share with me below what is your favorite part of this video. I would love to hear it, or simply give me your favorite emoji if you enjoyed the information that you learned today. And just a reminder, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, hit that subscribe button. I have a new talk show episode and a new video that comes out every single week. I would love to welcome you into this community with open arms. I hope you all have such a beautiful day, sending you so much love. If you can't tell, I'm wondering, based off of the information that you learned in this video, what phase of the cycle do you think I'm currently in based off of the energy that you're picking up from me? Always a fun game. Let me know. I love it, and I'm sending you all a big virtual hug.